Hello, I'm Glenn Crothers, and today it's my pleasure to talk to Gabe Evens, Assistant Professor of Jazz Piano Composition and Arranging at the University of Louisville. Equally important, he is bringing his trio, consisting of Chris Fitzgerald on bass and Mike Hyman on drums, to the next Louisville Jazz Society Signature Series concert, which is on Sunday, May 26th at 7 p.m. at the Cafe. Equally important, they'll be playing a tribute to the Great Standards Trio, led by Keith Jarrett. It's great to talk to you this morning, Gabe.
Yeah, you too, Glenn. And
So,
let me say one thing before we get started. We're not paying tribute to the Standards Trio. We're paying tribute to Keith Jarrett in general,
great, great.
which which is
The-
significant because of the repertoire we've chosen. Actually, yeah.
yeah, well, that means you're moving away from the standards.
Yes, we are. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, so what's the genesis for this idea to play the music of Keith Jarrett?
So, uh, let's see. So Keith Jarrett, has been one of the Keith Jarrett has been actually the number one influence on me as a jazz musician. And I would say, 85-90% of that has been his standards trio. I mean, I have listened to countless hours and albums of the standards trio. Just love it. That's one of the, I mean, I like a wide variety of jazz musicians, but Keith Jarrett's just one of those that I've always just coming back to, and that trio with Jack DeJohnette and Gary Peacock. Um, but actually, it was the drummer's idea. It was Mike Hyman's idea at some point, who just because he's also very influenced by Keith Jarrett, and I know that my colleague and great friend Chris Fitzgerald, the bassist, also hugely influenced by Keith Jarrett. In fact, I guess a great many jazz musicians are incredibly influenced by Keith Jarrett. Anyway, it was Mike Hyman who said to me before this opportunity came up. He said, we should just do a Keith Jarrett concert at some point. And then lo and behold, I got a call from you guys, and actually asking about a band that I brought a long time ago, to the Louisville Jazz Society, my Potassium Man,
Right.
funk. Uh, and I said, this could be a great opportunity just to do to make this it's so hard to find opportunities to play any concerts. So I thought, with what Mike Hyman had said to me, I just thought, hey, how about this, Winton? And he loved the idea, and here we are.
Great. So, what is it about Jarrett's music that you and Mike and Chris find so compelling? What's there, and what? And you said you're not playing the standards, so is it across the career, or is it a specific era that?
It's I mean, you couldn't possibly encapsulate Keith Jarrett's career in one concert, but yes, it's we're hitting stuff from his American quartet, his European quartet, and a little bit of the standards trio as well. We're actually doing a standard specifically that I know he didn't record. Also, we're going to play "In the Still of the Night" by Cole Porter, which you can't find a recording of him doing. I like the tune. It feels like the kind of tune he might pick, and I'm trying to kind of reimagine it as he might have played it in the standards trio. Just to try something a little different there.
Right.
What was your question?
I said, well, what is it about the music that Jarrett, that
Oh,
all three musicians find so compelling?
so obviously I can only speak for myself, but Keith Jarrett, there is, well, I mean, that's Keith Jarrett means there's so many things. He's incredibly virtuosic. He has
Mm.
the most hand independence. He's able to play almost like Bach fugues on the spot. And
Which
uh,
he's recorded too.
yes, he's recorded Bach and
Yeah.
Shostakovich as well,
Yeah.
and some. Yeah. Anyway, uh, but he, I mean, he's just across. I mean, his his influence, to me, he's the ultimate jazz musician in that he actually is not, he truly has a unique, uh, his influences are blues, folk, gospel, classical, Charlie Parker. It's all there. That to me is what jazz is about. It's not about trying to play exactly, the language of bebop or whatever. He's got it all. But and he has this incredible ability to make the piano, which is a famously not a lyrical singing instrument in general. It's a percussion instrument. You hit the key, you can hit it harder or softer, and you can release the key. That's what you have with the piano, basically, in terms of expression. But he somehow is able to make the piano sing almost like a vocalist, which I believe is probably connected to his actual singing, all the noises and stuff he makes that he's been so criticized for his whole career. But
I was going to ask you if you're going to do any of that too.
I make some noise when I play. I mean, I think a lot of us do. But yeah,
The lyricism of
yeah, though he's
Keith
so
Jarrett.
lyrical on the instrument, and maybe even one more step more than that. Keith Jarrett just he absolutely means every note he plays. There is not one note he's ever played where there is not 100% expression coming into it through him. I mean, it's just completely everything. It's just he's just pure. It's the purest form of improvisation and expression, in my opinion.
Mm. Well, the Standards Trio was famous for going on stage without a set list, without any arrangements, and just sort of listening to one another and seeing where it went. You clearly got a set list. Can you talk
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
we have
bit
a set
about
list. Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about the kinds of things you'll be playing then across Jarrett's
Sure.
career, standards, and any of your stuff?
No, I actually didn't. I do compose quite a bit, but for this concert, I'm not playing any of my music. Let's see. So we're playing a couple from his American quartet. The American quartet had Dewey Redman. That's Joshua Redman's father,
Yeah.
and Paul Motion and Charlie Hayden. And they had this very, I mean, kind of coming out of the free jazz era, this very sort of un, you know, very free, expressive kind of concept. They also sometimes worked with percussionists, and they all played different percussion. And Keith Jarrett actually played several instruments. He plays soprano sax and and percussion and other stuff in that group. But anyway, uh, we're doing a couple from that. One is called "The Rich and the Poor," which is just kind of like a vamp. He does a lot of vamps, Keith Jarrett. There's
Yep.
lots of vamps in his career, like where he's just kind of grooving over one sort of set of limited chord changes. So, and then we're doing one called Treasure Island, which is this long weaving melody, very kind of romantic influence. It's a fab. Keith Jarrett's compositions are just amazing. One of the things that's kind of interesting to me about Keith Jarrett is uh, a lot of jazz musicians, they start early in their career playing kind of the standard, the Great American Songbook stuff, and then they move to their original material as they mature. That's a typical path. And for Keith Jarrett, it's the opposite. He actually played a
Mhm.
lot of original music early in his career, and then he moved into that standards trio. So we're doing that. We're doing a couple from his European group, his European quartet with Jan Garbeck, Paul Danielson, the bass player who just passed away like 3 or 4 days ago,
Oh,
and
didn't realize that.
John Christensen, the drummer. That group formed shortly after the American Quartet. Um, their influence more kind of a their European folk music. It's a little bit more, I think to our ears, we would, or, it's a little bit kind of has certainly by no means is it smooth jazz, but it has a bit more of that sound. It's like a little bit easier on the ears,
Mm.
but unbelievably sophisticated, beautiful music.
It
I would,
typifies for me the sort of ECM sound.
it is absolutely totally, yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. So we're doing My Song, which is the title track from
Beautiful.
one of his albums. Um, we're doing a tune that he recorded with Gary Burton. I don't. I should have the list in front of me. It's like kind of a rock ballad. But anyway, what's cool about it is that uh, our drummer Mike Hyman played with Gary Burton for years and years and years. So it's kind of neat that we're doing this thing that Keith Jarrett did with Gary Burton, and now we have Mike Hyman there to we know it's the real thing. We know it's he's also not only does he have the musicality, but he'll let you know uh, if it's catching the vibe or not. So we're doing that. We're doing we're going to do the Old Country. That was Chris Fitzgerald's request, which is a tune written by Nat Adderley and famously sung by Nancy Wilson. Keith Jarrett recorded it on one of his original standards albums. It's a just a great, you know, melodic standard. And what else are we doing? Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember every song we're
Well,
doing.
well, it sounds like a great selection of music you got. Can you tell me about the interplay? I mean, one again thing about all the two quartets you're talking about and the standards trio, and actually he also played in a trio with Paul Motion and Charlie Hayden too before he did the famous trio.
Yes, I have to
Um,
tell you, I have not, I have actually not checked out that particular recording. Yeah, but
that's
yeah,
it's good as you might expect. Um, but all of those groups, there was the interplay between the musicians. I mean, there's this great conversation going on. And Gary Peacock once in an interview said that playing with this trio, you just listened and you just listened to the other players and you went with that. And I just wonder what it's like playing with Chris and Mike. What kind of conversations, what kind of interplay do you guys have when you play together?
yeah, that's a great question, Glenn. First of all, yeah, I mean, all of his groups, they were all clearly, while able to express themselves with so much freedom, at the same time listening. I mean, you can just clearly hear like they're just weaving stuff together. I mean, it's just one unit, all of those groups. Um, Well, so I mean, Chris Fitzgerald and Mike Hyman are they are listeners as well. I mean, uh, they're listeners, but they're also very strong musicians who they like to insert themselves into. They're not. It's not a passive group, and they're listening for balance in terms of like I don't mean just the balance of dynamics. I mean the balance of density and the balance of consonance versus dissonance and everything. It's all in there. Typically in this particular group, and by the way, I should mention that I've had the pleasure of playing, innumerable times with these guys, so we know each other so well. Both of them, maybe a little bit more with Chris since we're just there in that building together. We've just played together so much, and we know what we're going to do together. We know how it's going to work. That particular ensemble is really exciting. I think it's exciting because Mike Hyman, he's a he's unpredictable. He just brings this element of there is no one who plays it less safe than Mike Hyman. I mean, he's a huge risk taker, which he can do because he has such incredibly strong fundamentals. I mean, he's such an amazing solid drummer that he just plays against that. He subverts that just constantly. It makes it, you know, okay, I'm doing this trio concert and there's a listening audience and boy, we better be careful. No, that's absolutely impossible with Mike Hyman. It's not going to happen. There're going to be risks. There's going to be uncertainty. There might be moments of confusion. And with Mike and Chris, we trust each other so much that we are able to go through those moments and come out with something maybe a little bit more special than if we were trying to play everything sort of straight and narrow all the time, if that makes sense. So it's a wonderful, I love playing with these guys.
Yeah. The other thing that Gary Peacock said in the interview was that playing the standards was he first didn't want to. He was like, "Why would I want to do that? I've been playing my own music, etc." But he said when they started playing together, it was freeing because you didn't have to think about it. You
Yeah.
just knew that it was a tribal language, is how he described it. That we shared this tribal language, and then we could go places with it. And it sounds like that you, Chris, and Mike have a comparable sort of a bond when you play.
Yeah. I love that. I didn't know Gary Peacock said that, but that really that makes sense. And yes, there is the standards that we've played, thousands of times. There is you just know you don't there is complete your hands just go. There's no intellectual and it's funny that you're kind of mentioning that because in digging into Keith Jarrett's compositions and preparing them, some of them were very challenging. The song Treasure Island and also the Wind Up is another one actually. These are really really intricate and difficult pieces and when I you know first was going to play this gig, I thought I want to memorize all this stuff. So I've been working on it a while, and uh, just to try to get this rather intricate music in my head and in my hands has been an adventure. It has not been easy, and yeah, we won't. There will not be the same, quite the same level of freedom. I don't think when we're playing that as when we kind of unleash into the standards a little bit. But that's interesting
So
that Gary Peacock said that. Yeah.
yeah. You're gonna so can we expect to hear, and again, the trio and the other bands, so there's this element of vamping as you described, and there's also this free group improvisation that happens. Is that gonna be part of the show as well?
Well, yeah, I hope so. Yeah. No, actually, on the tune I just mentioned, the wind up, there's a melody, there's a head, you play the head twice, and then there's no solo changes or anything. It's completely free. So at least on one of the songs, there will be absolute, complete free improvisation. I would expect, particularly on the standards, I would not be surprised if we end up kind of getting into a vamp or something. I'm trying to stay true a little bit to the spirit of Keith Jarrett, not
And
planning
over,
out. Yeah, I mean, we were rehearsing, and I was like, should we go back to should we have the bass come in? Blah, I was, and then I looked at Mike Hyman, and I said, or should we just forget about it, see what happens? He goes, yeah, that. So yeah, it's we're
so it's gonna be an adventure.
gonna be an adventure, and it's tough because Keith Jarrett Trio, they were out there playing, hundreds of concerts and playing together, and this is it. We have this one shot to play this piano trio concert, which I was thinking it may be actually the first in my entire career. It may be my first piano trio, complete piano trio concert in a listening setting. Obviously, I played a million gigs, background music or whatever. This actually might be the first piano trio I've ever gotten to do. So it's really exciting. I mean, nothing I love more than working in quartets and quintets and getting to comp and participate in that way. But this is just like it's going to be intimate.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I personally, I find there's something pure about the piano trio. I
it
just
is.
think that's one of my favorite settings for music, let alone jazz. So I'm really excited to hear you guys play on Sunday, May 26th. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks,
And
man.
it's great to talk to you about Keith Jarrett. I could talk all day about it.
Yeah, I can tell
Like,
you're clearly a fan.
oh yeah, I'm like one of my favorite. My entree into jazz actually was Keith Jarrett and Pat Metheny. So that's so.
I've heard a lot.
Well, again, thanks for talking to me again this morning, Gabe. It's a great talking to you. And remember that the Gabe Evans Trio and its tribute to Keith Jarrett will be playing on Sunday, May 26th at 7 p.m. at the Cafe as part of the Louisville Jazz Society Signature Series. Hope to see everybody there. Thanks
Thanks so
again,
much.
Gabe.
Thanks for the great questions too.